finished. Okay, so we are in our last part with Ian Snow Carpenter. Michael Werbowski left us to his podcast. And Ian, you were saying, because I asked you in the last part, that what those interior politics of United States, how they're going to influence also the war on Ukraine, and of course from our perspective, the Polish one, because I'm Polish, and so I'm also interested how United States, interior politics is going to influence my own country. And you started your experience when you were going to Greenpoint, and you met Polish and Ukrainians there. And please elaborate what happened there when you came with the camera and asked about the war and whatever.
Yeah, there were a few people who wanted to talk and they were too upset. Okay, there were people who, and I guess it shouldn't surprise me because some of them have family over there. One woman told me that her mother calls her from the Ukraine, tries to call her every night, and every night the woman is crying. There was one man who was physically, he wanted to speak to me. He just couldn't, he didn't know where to begin. Maybe a little bit, he was limited in English, but he was just overwhelmed with grief. The people who did talk to me, I was surprised. I did hear from some Ukrainians who thought that it was good that the United States was moving in and providing weapons, and that the Ukraine was going to keep on fighting in this war. I was surprised to hear that. There were other people who simply told me that Vladimir Putin is an evil man, and that he's not to be trusted, and that the United States was doing the right thing. So I guess there was mainly a sense of grief. And what can I say? People are not happy about it. They don't really necessarily understand the political or the financial reasons. But that's what I'd like to say. Yeah, some people did say it's just about money. There is a transit, it's about money. And so I would tend to agree with them from what I hear. This is a war that is not benefiting most people. It's going to benefit a small group of people. And I think that it is not something that's a popular war. It's embarrassing to see our government so much in disarray, ignoring our own constitution, completely lawless. You know, these cases against Donald Trump, you don't need to wait until the verdict. You don't need to wait until the end of the trial. The punishment for Trump is the process. It's just the process, the time it takes up, reading the legal documents, getting your attorneys to respond to it. So that's what the punishment is. And I think that Michael commented earlier that Trump may win those lawsuits, but you can win a lawsuit and also suffer. And so that's why we say the punishment is the process. It's going to be very difficult, and it's embarrassing to see our government in such disarray right now. People are, like I said, it's a freaky time.
You were saying that, of course, this is only beneficial for some small minority interest groups, of course, the military complex and so on, because all those money tranches that are going to Ukraine are going basically to the military corporations of the United States. And now we would know that this administration, Biden administration, are gonna give another package of money, 2.1 billion of dollars to support this war. We see that the Ukraine started this counter-offensive, but it has many casualties, and they lost a lot of equipment. We saw on these videos. Also, do you see is there any end in this tunnel? Is there any? Are they going to stop? You know, the elections in the United States are in 2024. So are they going to run this year? This Biden administration, is there going to not stop this war, or are they going to still, you know, pump it with the money and with the, I don't know, to the last Ukrainian, like Lindsey Graham was saying? Do you see any end of this policy?
I see that there could be an end for only a few individuals. One of the biggest pushers for the war is a guy named Mitt Romney, and he's a senator from Utah, and he has the personality and the mindset where he brings people together who are into the war, and they're into profiting from the war. So I think that Mitt Romney in the next 6 months will be diminished in his ability to do things. I should say that because some of his own crimes are becoming public, and I don't think that Mitt Romney will be in politics. But that's going to take over a year. That'll be some 490 days. How much time do we have until the 2024 election? I think we have something like 525 days, 500 and something days. So we have 500 days to go approximately before the 2012 election. It'll be a big election. We don't know what we're going to do if our elections are fake. I follow a guy named Patrick Byrne because he's taken a tremendous amount of his own money and put it into what they call election integrity. Patrick Byrne is an American billionaire. He founded a company called Overstock.com, and he didn't vote for Trump in 2016. He didn't vote for Trump in 2020, but he firmly believes that the election was rigged and stolen. And he's put some $5 or $6 million up, according to him, of his own money into computer scientists and different people, and helping General Michael Flynn. So they're trying to, you know, rectify this problem we're having with elections. I can't believe it. It just goes on and on and on. The idea that they can't make our elections honest is mind-boggling. But you asked if I see any change. No, I don't see any change right now. I'm surprised Joseph Biden is still able to walk and talk. I would have thought that they would have had to retire him already. So I'm surprised that Joseph Biden is still walking and talking. He seems very, very sick to me. I know he doesn't seem, he's very, very sick. We have a very big problem here. Unfortunately, the physical violence is more extreme right now in the Ukraine, but we have a lot of violence here in the United States. And we have a fentanyl crisis that is real. There are just people passed out and zonked out on really strong drugs. Their minds are destroyed. And the US government is just running up a debt. They don't, the government's basically bankrupt. People say the only reason the US dollar has not collapsed completely is because the US makes pretty good death robots. Okay, so once upon a time, the US dollar was maybe based on precious metals and gold and silver. You know, our dollar used to, 120 years ago, American dollars pretty much look the same that they look today, except for in print up at the top of our dollars, it said redeemable in silver certificates, which means you could take your money to the bank, you'd get a certificate, and you could take the certificate and get precious metal from it. Well, that stopped 120 years ago. And then the US dollar became pegged on oil in the 1970s when the Nixon administration made a deal with Saudi Arabia only to sell oil to countries that purchased the oil with the American dollar, which helped a lot. Well, apparently that is over as well. So what is sustaining the American dollar? Many dreamers in other countries pressed with the military death robots, meaning the fighter airplanes, the drones, the killing machines, which are keeping the empire going. it's a foolish way for the country to go. And it's bad news. It's worse for the Ukrainian people, and it's getting increasingly bad for American people as well.
Okay, so my last question would be a question, of course, maybe I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. So
yeah,
because the elections, these elections in 2024, is there do they gonna change anything? Or this deep state structure, these neocons, this liberal interventionists, these Volcans, so the military complex persons are so have a grip on this power structure that you were saying. They're like a kind of an octopus that they're have their own those hands of wherever, to the FBI, to the Secret Service, to the administration, to the judicial system, that the structure is so solid that only the collapse of the maybe a dollar as a trade currency maybe or whatever can dismantle this structure or change the policies. Because this democratic elections policies, we can see that in the United States, but in different countries, are now doesn't make any sense basically because the policies are not changing.
Yeah. What can be said about it? I follow the news. I'm an activist. It makes me wonder, maybe I should have tried to get into this political structure game and I should run for elected office myself. Who knows? Maybe many of us should. Robert F. Kennedy said something very interesting a few days ago. He said sometime around the late 80s and 90s emerged a group that we call Iraq War, and they also had plans for many other wars, with a war with Iran, a war with Syria, and they had a whole plan that I believe a general named General Wesley Clark actually spoke about, which is this neocon plan. And after the Iraq War, you didn't hear very much about the neocons. It was like they disappeared because of the failure of the war. They just were not popular anymore. Robert F. Kennedy says they have reemerged. The neocons are inside the Biden administration. They are back. And probably right now they're getting a big charge out of the problems that Donald Trump is having right now. And so, yeah, we have terrible censorship going on social media. The Twitter files are absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know how this is going to play out. Whether I don't think it looks good, to tell you the truth. And Patrick Byrne, I think, has a really good worldview. And he said something last month, which was pretty disturbing. He said that Biden is willing to lose 3 American cities. He just said the Biden administration is willing to lose 3 American cities. They will, in his view, they'll do anything to avoid going into another election if they think they're going to lose. So that could be a catastrophe over in Europe. It could be a catastrophe right here in the United States. So I think we're a lot more vulnerable than maybe people thought we are here in the United States. If we have a supply chain disruption, meaning if food cannot get transported across the country, it doesn't matter how many F-15 airplanes you have or Tomahawk cruise missiles you have. And the International Space Station will be of no help if we have a supply chain disruption in the United States. Then there is going to be a very bad outcome for Americans, at least. And we're right on the edge of it right now. They've pushed this problem over to the Ukrainian people. I can't imagine what it's like to be in the Ukraine, caught between these warring superpowers, and to have other countries brought into it.
Yes, we are also in Poland worrying very much about this. Our elections are coming, and we can't see that the Polish government is, is trying to de-escalate, and we are, hoping that we are not the next Ukraine, because we're gonna have on 11th of July the Vilnius summit, NATO summit, and from what we know, that not the NATO and United States don't gonna give some security, for Ukraine. So the former NATO chief, not Stoltenberg, but the former, before Rasmussen, and his advisor of Zelensky, President Zelensky, is saying that there is going to be a coalition of willing to give those kind of security guarantees without NATO. And those guarantees are going to be given by the United States kind of vassal states like Poland, Romania, and the Baltics. So, and of course, if those states like Romania and Poland would go into Ukraine with the soldiers and would, for instance, attack Russia Federation, and we have mercenaries, Polish mercenaries that attacked Russian Federation a few weeks ago, then we're gonna have, escalation. We can have a collapse of United States from inside, but also we can have a third world war in Europe, basically, and it's very close to this. When President Putin withdrew from the New START treaty, they pushed the tactical nuclear weapons to the Belarus. So it's not stopping. So I'm going to finish that I think we are living in this Chinese curse, that we are living in interesting times. So this is, I think, this interesting times that we are living, and I think that China is benefiting from this, because the United States, Europe, and Russia, it's losing in some way, and China is only watching and waiting, I think.
I'm with you there. That's correct. That's exactly what I see.
Okay.
There's a whole industry. There's a chaos industry that's been built. There are people who are thriving from chaos. It gives them a sense of war, and it gives them a sense of importance. Like I've said, many of these people in government have never, ever run a business before. Many of them have never served in the military. None of them have ever fought in the military, and they're not fighters in this, outside as well. They're just going along with it to make some money.
Describing the US government is like describing the Polish government, and I think a lot of governments, that they don't really know what they are doing, and what's gonna be the outcome for the populations, for the population of our nations.
Yeah, for many years I thought they simply had a difference of opinion, and I'm coming more and more around that it's a psychological problem, it's an illness, it's some kind of mental illness where people think that they can make a decision that affects somebody else's life, which is so precious. I keep on hearing people on television say, it's just a terrible tragedy of what's happening. It is a terrible tragedy, but it's much, much more than this. It has to stop right now. If the people want to fight with each other, maybe there's a situation where two people could go and fight themselves in a fighting zone. But if people don't want to be in the fight, they should not be in the fight. Innocent people who don't want any part of it should not be inside of the fight of other people. And it only is a very weak or mentally ill person that would put people into that kind of situation, especially when governments do it. It's disgusting.
Yes, you are 100% right. So Ian, I don't know how we can positively end this discussion, but hopefully we can think and say that maybe history was sometimes going to the really bad scenario, but in some way we didn't know how, it went different direction because of some small groups, some small people that turned this wheel of history to the other direction. So thank you very much for this our discussion. It was really interesting, Ian, talking with you with this interior things. So hopefully we're gonna have others next time with Przemek from Oslo, of course, and with other discussions. So thank you very much. We had discussion with Michael Werbowski and Ian Snow Carpenter from United States, from New York. So thank you all in New York, in Canada, in Poland, and other sites that you're watching to our video, and let's keep cross that it's gonna go to the right way. Thank you, Ian, and let's talk next time.
Thank you, Michał. Bye-bye now.
Have a good day.